So this recorded session is going to give you some awareness of some of the resources that you can find within the Reading Coach library. So the Reading Coach library is accessible by you, I think, from a document you get given when you're doing your initial training. It's an online document and it has a link to the Reading Coach library, which you're advised to save the document and have it somewhere on a computer that you can access it easily. And then when you need to go into the Reading Coach library, you retrieve the document and click on the link. And the link looks very much like that. Go straight into it, and then you'll see this set of contents, if you like, immediately in front of you. So the first area I want to go into is the very first one on the list, the Reading Coach General Resources, just for a couple of very simple and straightforward reasons, and probably more useful for new coaches to understand this than existing coaches, but nonetheless useful for us all. First of all, you've got the reading record sheet here. So we ask you to complete a reading record sheet as you go along with your reader. So every time you have a session with your reader, you fill in the date, the venue, the pages that you're on turning pages, whichever manual it may be, and any comments about what you've covered, what the reader has learnt and understood, etc. So if you can just keep that filled in session by session, that's really useful as a running record of what your reader's been doing and how they've been progressing. So really good practice that we've seen from some coaches is to involve the reader in actually filling this in. So ask them, what they've learned, what they've covered, what they found difficult, what they think they've achieved, and then you can make a very short note about it there, and it's sort of like a shared understanding of where the reader is at following each session. So that means that every time you need a new reading record sheet, as you can see, it's not going to cover too many sessions before you need another one. Please print those out and carry on using them for yourselves. So that's obviously a useful document. The other useful document that I'd like to point out straight away is the volunteer expenses claim form. Here's the PDF down here at the bottom. And of course, we want you to complete expenses claim form so that you're not out of pocket. Now, most of the expenses you're going to claim are going to be things like travel. If you're traveling by car or by bus, whatever it may be, and you have parking possibly to pay for, then we don't need to be out of pocket. So with our prior agreement, you can do that on a regular basis. You may have other very small bits of expenses that you want to claim for, but it's unlikely. Nevertheless, whenever you need a new expenses claim form, just print one out, complete it, forward it to Linda, and we'll reimburse you as soon as we can. So that's the second useful document within this particular area, the general resources. Also within the general resources are two sets of common frequency, high frequency words, the 220 Dolch words. There they are there. They're basically sight words. And then the 1000 Fry sight words. So Dolch and Fry were two different linguists working on the acquisition of reading, and they compiled these lists of words which they felt should be learnt by sight. In actual fact, both Dolch and Fry were advocates of the analytic phonics approach, which is really about learning by sight. Whereas, of course, what we're doing is we're using these days, and certainly Turning Pages uses the synthetic phonics approach, where we're building up our understanding of what a word sounds like by concentrating on the individual sounds and then blending them together. So that's also there. And finally, you've got just other little bits of resources, alphabet cards that you can print out. And use with your reader. And the Reading Coach role description, just for your reference. You should, of course, have that as part of your initial training. So the Reading Coach library also contains handwriting resources, which you can go into. There's three different documents. First is the guidance on developing handwriting. It's worth a read. If we scroll down and look at just the first sentence, give you a basic introduction, but obviously it's worth reading the whole thing. This pack has been designed to help you to provide your reader with a structured approach to developing handwriting skills. In the process, the hope is also to reinforce reading skills and teach early spelling patterns. So the idea is that in practicing handwriting, this actually brings on improvements in reading, but particularly in spelling. The idea is that as you develop a cursive handwriting style, that actually this sort of, in a way, what you're doing with your hand has a sort of synergy with your brain and helps to improve spelling as well. So at least that's the hope. So that's the guidance document. Have a read of that, and that will tell you how to go about using this documentation. And then if we go into the handwriting packs themselves, the first pack is called Early Letter Formation. If I scroll down, you'll see that the content is split into different letter groups of letters that have a similar formation, I suppose we'd say. So the L, the I, and the T, letters with ascenders, letters with descenders, those that go above the line, those that come down underneath the line. And then, as you can see, it goes in different letter groups, gives you templates to follow so that you can actually trace out the shape of the letter if you're not familiar with them. Moving on to doing so with collections of letters, short words, etc., etc., etc. Moving into the different letter groups and then building them up into small words, collections of letters with the template. So good practice to print out and give to readers in the early stages of their development as readers in between sessions. Obviously modeling how to actually shape the letters and the joins with them before letting them loose on it themselves. That can be quite useful. And then the second pack is called Progression, and it's just taking that handwriting exercise further. So if we look at the contents, double letters, blends, extra sounds, look right, say words, in other words, sight words, vowels and vowel blends, double letters, that sort of thing. So again, if you look down, you'll see a series of words and blends, how they're joined together, some templates, plus some space to do some free practice without the templates to support them. So you can print those out, use them as homework, and use them to build up your readers' confidence in shaping letters and words. So the next area we're going to go into in the Reading Coach library is the resources to use with turning pages, this one here. So we're going to click on that. And then first of all, we're going to go into resources mapped to turning pages. So we click on that and you'll then see we've got 5 different folders, TP1, TP2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to go into one of those just as an example, just have a look at what's in there. And then later on, we're going to come back to this area and look at ANSPEAR's resources, which you also might find useful. So let's choose TP2. I know there's a number of coaches on TP2 with their readers. So let's go into that. And the first thing we've got here is a folder called Shannon Trust Activities. And if we click on that, then there are 3 different sets of activities. I'll just go into one. They're all similar, but at different levels of difficulty, if you like. So let's go into set 2, pack 2, Shannon Trust. And then if we just scroll down this page, it's just one document, but essentially it's got some activities at different levels of difficulty. Things like word searches, stay, claim, map, clay, pain, chap, pay. So that's different forms of the letter A, the sound A and A. We've got fill the gap, so sort of close procedures, where the reader would choose the correct word to go into the space. Connecting the word with the picture, and more word searches, more fill in the gaps, etc., etc. So quite a few activities there, and there are 3 sets of those. So that's one area that you can go into. As I say, the others are very similar. So if we just go back now to TP2, now you'll see if we scroll down that there's a document linked to each of the books that are related to TP2, the reading books. So we just go into one, just an example, Bob, Jan and Rex. So if your reader is on Bob, Jan and Rex, then you could go into here and you'll scroll down and see that these exercises may be helpful to practice sounds and sight words from the series of Shannon Trust books. So some comprehension questions about the story, just to check their understanding of what they're reading. finding the missing word from the story. So practicing sort of skimming and scanning the text. Mixed up sentences, can you put them right? Add in full stops, commas and capitals in order to make the sentences complete. Spot the difference between two quite similar sentences, but with perhaps one thing different. And words that are scrambled up that the reader would then unscramble to make a recognizable word. And then you've got the answers at the end. So if we just go back to that previous menu, you'll see that, as I said, there's one of these documents for each of the books. So there's some nice additional materials that you could send home with the book for your reader to do between sessions, or perhaps you could do it if you wanted to during a session. So going in via the Reading Coach library again, again into resources to use with turning pages, and again into resources mapped to turning pages. We come to this area here where we've got TP1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the activities we just looked at. But we've also got this ANSPEAR Readerphonics Resources Guide, which we click on that, we go to a document which contains within it a link to the ANSPEAR website. It's anspear.com. Now, you could just Google anspear.com and go in that way, but you can also just click on this link. That takes me directly in because my computer's set up to do that. The ANSPEAR materials are something that ReadEasy UK have got an agreement that we can access. So all we need is a username and a password. So any of you using that username and password will go straight into these materials and see this front page. Now, the idea of ANSPEAR is that they're online books, essentially, with some interactive elements to them. So let's just have a quick look at some of them. So you've got short stories, first of all. Some are very short stories. Micro stories are literally sort of 1 page long. Others are a little bit longer, but they're all stories that you could share with your reader. And if we go back to the same menu before, you look at Readerphonics level 1, level 2, and level 3, where we've got stories with different levels of difficulty. So if we go and click into level 1, you'll see there's quite a nice range of stories. I'm not quite sure I can scroll down, but you get the point. And if I just go into one of these stories at random, say ham and eggs, then you'll see that you've got a series of sort of menus here to click onto. The first one to click onto is the mentor notes, because that tells you a little bit about where the reader would be expected to be in order to be able to access this particular book. So before reading ham and eggs, it's expected that learners are confident with all the letter sounds, including ch, sh, s, and k, and can blend them into words. Learners need to be familiar with these essential everyday words as well: was, the, she, he, etc. So that's the first thing that's useful if you're looking to find some materials that match where your reader is at the moment. You can then just read the story. Stan met Bet at a truck stop. Stan was a truck driver and Bet ran the truck stop on the A41. Come to the next page, etc. Read it through. You can listen to everyday words that are going to appear in the story.
Was. For.
You can listen to words that are specific to the story that are going to crop up.
Road. Her.
You can do true and false questions to test the reader's understanding of what they've been reading. The ham was cut thin with soft eggs on top. I don't know whether that's true or false. I got it right. And there's a quick quiz as well. So
Was.
that's was.
What.
So some nice activities there, all online, that you can use.